ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Keith Andrew, the one and only Keith Andrew, and this is episode 495. That's right, 495. And today we have up-and-coming book author, Mike Turno. Mike Turno, thank you for joining us.
Hi, it's Mark Anthony Turno, for the full name.
Well,
Glad
I
to be
just
here.
wanted to keep it short.
Well, my parents gave me a great writer's name, so I figure I'll use it.
All right. Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, who influenced you to become a writer? And actually, that's my question. Who influenced you to become a writer, and how many books have you written?
That's a question that the more I think about it, the further back it goes. I was always a reader. Science fiction, fantasy, adventure stuff all the way back to when I was 7. I was the kid that the tab books, lucky books, where they'd have the thing for the kids to order, and some kids order 1 or 2. I have a stack of like about 9 of them. And so I was always a reader, always into that. So on that level, there could be any one of about 30 or 40 authors that had that influence. But as far as why I started, I just sort of found myself drifting towards it. Around 7th grade, I found myself every time I read a story, I'd be analyzing the back of my head little bits of what I liked about it, and then put that back to percolate in my skull for a while, until that came together a while later. There were a couple of cheap short stories I tried before the age of 14, so it wasn't something I consciously said, gee, I think I'll be a writer, because there were several other things that I decided about that. It just seemed to be sort of natural, in a way.
All right. Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, what college did you go to, and what did you major in?
Okay, that would be colleges, about 4 of them all total. It boils down to the big degree would be the Master's in Physics, and then I had a second BS in Math, and along in the way there I entered a laser program and got some basic electronics and some other stuff.
All right. Now, my other question is, what were some of your favorite books that you ever published, and have you ever been on TV? Or ever been interviewed?
Never been on TV. I did get a couple blog interviews a few years back. Favorite books of the ones I've read or written?
The ones you read it, of course.
Read? Oh, gee, we could be here all day. Just the writing me, I have like 2 shelffuls of hardcovers and then a bunch everywhere. I loved all the big plots, the big long epics, because every time I read a short story as a kid, I never wanted it to end. And the story I fell in love with would come to end way too soon. So I read, let's see, Dune, Xanth, a whole bunch of obscure ones I got through the Science Fiction Book Club. I see 3 from the Legion up there, which is a collection of stories that came out in the 40s in the old magazine that they finally put in some books in book form. My favorite as a kid, like about 5th grade, was A Wrinkle in Time. That's one that stands out there. But beyond that, there are just too many. I can't even put a favorite author on it. I can't put a favorite book, because there's just too many I love, And any place that went to grand places, and out there, whether it's fantasy or science fiction or any of that stuff.
What was the very first book you ever read in? And was it ever published or self-published?
Very first book I ever read?
Written.
Oh, what?
Written.
Redded? Or written?
Written.
Written? Oh. That's, well, the very first thing I ever wrote, that it's now published under my label is a short story. I have this Inspector Flatfoot series. And to give you an idea where I'm going with that, it's actually spelled Flaatphut, and he's picky about how it's pronounced. That's the tongue-in-cheek stuff I do in between all the big epics. The longest story on that one is maybe 100,000 words, and that's it. That one I got first published. There was this little outfit that they were doing their little test marketing scheme and doing some free stuff for people, and said, okay, here, we'll dump in an ebook for you. And I ended up just self-publishing on that one. I got 6 stories in that series that go from short story to novella and stuff like that. Beyond that, well, before that, years back, I think when I was 14, I wrote this little, 3-page, nothing of a story thing that it didn't have much of a plot. It was more told as a myth or a legend of something happening in space, and that one never made it past pen and paper, and I'm not even sure if I have a copy of that around here anymore. Although some elements I put in there did make it into the big series.
All right. And I also saw that you were, let's see, you wrote your own mini-series of author of, I can't even remember, Manua series?
It's called Maldine. Maldine is a 13-book series, and these are not short books. The first book right now is out in 2 volumes because people, when I was trying for the print version with some no good Nick publishers, they were saying we don't publish 800-page paperbacks, and so then when I went to ebook, I just kept that format. But the first book is like 330,000 words, and it starts off looking like a swords and sorcery epic fantasy thing. But there's a lot more than that I sneak in there. By the second book, you actually find I put in some science fiction elements. And before the whole thing is up, well, it crosses that line that I think it was Arthur C. Clarke. He said any technology sufficiently advanced, you can't tell the difference between that and magic. It sort of crosses that line eventually, but I do mix up the magic and the technology and journeys to other dimensions and worlds. The name of the world is actually Maldine, and so that's the whole thing revolves around that world and some secrets that have been lying there, and one particular bad guy whose name is Myro. And he had designed as the ultimate villain because when I was growing up, I got real tired of the villain capturing the good guy and wasting his time talking to them instead of just shooting the guy in the head or something. And I went, come on, give me a real villain. And so I designed what I think of as the ultimate villain, which means naturally he needs the ultimate prize, and that would be the big secret behind what Maldine has that all the people living on there don't know about. And it revolves around finding out this stuff.
That's true, and it's kind of like, when you talk about villains talk, Magneto on the X-Men, he talks, Sinister, he talks, Apocalypse, he talks, Dr. Evil, he's not really a villain, but he talks. But there's more talking than action.
Yeah, well, in Myro's case, he's sort of a slow burn villain. There's one brief background scene of him in the first book, and you don't see too much of him directly with the characters until the books go along. You see more of what he's done, some of his underlings. They find out more things like, hey, the gods are even afraid of this guy, and they aren't saying why. And he's been around for, as far as they know, what they know of as all of history. And, obviously he could have conquered the world. He hasn't. He's after something else. What's stopping him? So there's that mystery. They know he's really powerful, but he's also really cunning. And so all that feeds into them trying to find out, how do we stop a guy we don't even know what he wants?
Right. And I also did see that you were a ghostwriter, Have you ever written or ghostwritten any books for famous people?
No, not yet, or I probably would have gotten paid a lot more. I've ghostwritten fiction and nonfiction, pretty much what they'll pay me for. Naturally, I prefer doing the fiction stuff because I can really get my teeth into it and start creating. And the best sort of fiction ghostwriting job is when they come to me and said, "Okay, I need you to do everything from scratch, instead of just here's something I need edited." And I had a couple jobs like that where I had to design the world for him and the outline and everything else, and I really got to sink my teeth into it and show people, here's what I can do. And that got me some attention on one story I did last year, and the agency said, "Oh, you can do this stuff. Hey, we can send you, some more science fiction stuff, and do you do fantasy?" And they couldn't see the grin over my face when they asked that, and I told them I do fantasy better than I do science fiction. And so that's been getting me a lot more work lately. And that currently, in fact, I got one client that commissioned me for an 8-book series.
Have you ever thought about doing audiobooks?
That's crossed my mind every so often, but I'm not too versed on the whys and wherefores of it, and I certainly wouldn't want to be the one narrating it too much because I do stutter from time to time. And the last thing anybody wants is to hear an audiobook narrated and somebody sort of skipping over a couple words. And I can't afford to pay anybody right now to go, "Hey, I need a narrator that sounds like Patrick Stewart or something. Would you volunteer?"
All right. Now, my next subject I want to talk to you about is social media. Can social media make you or break you? And with everything you accomplished in, I would say, the arts of writing books, how does social media work for you? Do you think it dictates that people should work with you? Does your following matter to you? How do you feel about it?
Well, I'm still working on that part. I'm a great writer. I'm a lousy PR guy and marketer. Some of the things I have found out is taking out ads on some of the social media sites. You have to be careful. Like, there's a type that are basically the bidding war type, where you go, here's your bid, and when the spot comes up, biggest bid gets the ad. That really only works, I've discovered, if, say, you're a guy with that's selling a lot of products and you're looking for some repeat business. They make their money off the repeat business. If you're just selling one book, then you're going to go broke, I think, before breaking even on that. So I've sort of ruled out what doesn't work, and I do have found out, yeah, you have to get a following, which I'm trying to work on. Problem is, I'm spending so much time writing that I'm not the guy there making, like 14 posts a day or something like some of the people do. So that's sort of a conundrum I got to get past. Because all the people that are big in social media, that's what they do. They're on their little phones doing this all day, and that's not me. I might remember, hey, I think I owe them a post. It's been like 3 days.
All right. Well, what about the next question I was going to ask you? Have you ever written a book about people with special needs, and would you be willing to work with people with special needs?
No, I haven't written a book about special needs, not on the ghostwriting. On my own books, I've written some eccentric characters, but I wouldn't describe them as being under special needs. I would say if the plot called for it, then yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to put in special needs or anything else that the plot calls for. From the point of view, if it's like fiction, of course, from the point of view of fiction, my rule is plot first. So if it fits into the plot, great, I'll be glad. Or if it doesn't, violate my plot, if it doesn't go outside the boundaries, then yeah, I could put one in, as a good, I don't want to say eccentric character, but, you got got to have characters with personalities, and people that have differences, you can make good use of them on, something that'll draw attention to what you want in that story.
All right. With that being said, wrapping up our talk show, how can people follow you on social media?
Well, basically look for the name of the book. I'm at Maldene.com. That's Maldene. You can also search for me on Facebook, my Amazon page. I think the Facebook page is look for Fans of Maldene, or my name. If in doubt, everything is linked through on my the main website, Maldene.com, and you can find me on Facebook, the author page, wherever else you need me.
All right, well, wrapping up the show, it was a real honor privilege to do this short interview with you, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
It's been fun.
Very.
Arlene Schofield.
My name is Shireen Snow.
My name is Carla A. Miles.
Diana Camuto.
This is Christine Dunford.
I'm me, Eden.
Caroline Macy. This is Walker Fannin.
I'm Camille Dixon.
I'm Dates Wardam.
My name is Linda Preston, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Vince Russo.
Me, Mark Medley.
Hi everybody, this is Mark Neely.
Barry Papick.
This is Peter Bruno.
My name is Kyle Collier.
This is Julio Santiago, better known as Dynamite.
I'm Richard Epcar.
Morris Chow.
This is Kerrigan Mahan.
This is Goldar.
And we both support
Keith Andrew.
And my name is Ron Wasserman, and I am supporting Keith Andrew and what he is doing, and you better do the same, or I'm gonna come kick your ass.